Well, folks, we did it. Recently, you might remember that we went into a war. A war against Ravi, another member on the here on the TubeCraft server. And you see, the reason why I went into war is because I wanted to dominate the firework economy. Having that as like one of my assets would be very beneficial. But the problem is with that is that a lot of people understand that and they also value it. So I have to go into war with another member in order to conquer the economy. And well, I expected it to take 20 episodes, and now it's only taken 7. Episode 10, the day I won the war. So I think let's finish off this war, and let's show you guys the death of Ravi's shop. Ravi, about 2 months ago, you declared war on me for the accused scam of selling fireworks. Ravi, you declared war on me to try and take over the firework economy, and yet here you are giving up. So, as of today, 12/22/2020, I want you to sign this contract saying that you will no longer sell any fireworks nor any gunpowder items to anybody on the server as of this season. Please sign the book in the actual pages and also sign and close the book. Ravi, please come here. I think you know what time it is. Ravi, come here. Well, we did it. We won the war. Now, I have a lot to reveal about what I've actually been doing behind the scenes, because there's been a lot of people have been wondering, where do I get all my gunpowder? I only have one farm, right? Right? Well, truth be told, I actually have I only have one farm, but I've been abusing this thing called perma-day. You see, perma-day is basically a system I made with the one-player sleep plugin we have. By clicking on the bed, it instantly puts it to sunrise mode. Doing that allows me to, keep it on a permanent day cycle, which at the same time as doing that, if you keep it on a permanent day cycle, no mobs can spawn in your base or in other lit up areas, right? So if your mob farm is the only dark place that mobs can spawn, all of those 70 mobs going towards the mob cap will instantly all go into your creeper farm instead. And along with all the time that I'm actually alone on the server and I'm using permaday, I get so much more. Within an hour period, I get 30% more resources, 30% more of gunpowder, right? And then sugarcane, everyone knows about the sugarcane. Now, that's one way I've been abusing this server. Let me show you what I've been doing at Ravi's base. At Ravi's base, I'd been doing some secret pranks, you could say. The whole reason why I did the prank war was so that I could actually sabotage Ravi. I swapped hoppers around. I flooded his storage system with chickens and everything. That was the real reason why I did the prank war. And even the pranks like the bamboo prank and all the other pranks were all just to stall him, to slow him down, to make sure he didn't get any gunpowder at all. Because if he got a single drop of gunpowder, there was a chance I could lose. But I had been sabotaging him for weeks. He was not gaining anything, eventually leading to his decision to surrender. Now, with the war over, there's one more thing I would like to do before we close this chapter in the book. I want to recap everything that's went down, each and every prank. But let's not do it here. Let's go to a place where we should do it. But now that the prank war is over, I feel as it's my obligation as the winner of the war to go over what happened during the war, the exploits, the deception, everything. And while the war didn't last that long, it was still fun while it lasted. Let me go over the entirety of the Tubecraft prank war. On October 9th, Ravi made his shop. Making his shop, after that, he saw I had fireworks. Instinctively, he began to try and compete with me. Eventually, he declared war on me. That same day, he built his shop. He said, I will be the only one on the server that can sell fireworks. He said that. Well, I don't have any video recording. I remember that. Immediately after, Steel G1, I asked him to become my first teammate, the co-founder of the team. And he accepted. Now, throughout the entirety of the war, you guys might have noticed Steel was on Ravi's team as my spy. That was the first strike that happened in this war. From the very moment he had a teammate, he was already in my grasp. No exceptions. And then I countered him with another team. I gathered a team consisting of Howler, Thunder, Victory Man, and my friend Red. Well, Victory Man didn't show up for any of the meetings because he only joined at the very end of the war. I still had that team in case we had to go to battle, because Lord knows I am not good at PvP. I'm not good at building, but what I am good is business, redstone, and technical player stuff. Minecraft's a game I can control easily. With enough determination, you could do anything in Minecraft, and that's pretty much one of my mottos. This is back in episode 5 for context. I made a base. The very base you guys saw when we had our meeting in episode 5. This base, I was planning on being our HQ. Until I realized a man named Carbon, the man who I thought of as someone that I could trust, turned out to be a spy. I didn't know it at the time. I suspected it, but I wasn't sure. Within the meeting, I told my team we're going to prank Ravi. And I revealed to them 20,000 potatoes that me and my friend Red farmed. It's not a lot of potatoes, but it counts. The same day I revealed it to them, after the meeting, the potatoes vanished. Gone without a trace. This was also the same time I started to use perma-day, because at that point, after that meeting, I started running experiments with perma-day, and I found that perma-day could increase my production by 30% per hour, which is huge. I also realized it can increase so many other farms, and it can also break iron farms. That was vital. Because if he can't get iron, then if he can't have an iron farm, it's almost impossible to make it so that you can make farms, because hoppers and pistons, they all need iron. A lot of redstone stuff needs iron. Breaking his iron farm without touching it was vital. On episode 7, when I posted that, I realized the 20,000 potatoes were gone. Someone was a spy and had given them the ravi. So I hunted them down across the server. And while I never said it to anyone mainly, I found Carbon had the most, while everybody that was on Ravi's team, and even some members of my own, had large sudden quantities of potatoes. And even when Ravi said, "Oh yeah, it's because I have a potato farm suddenly," I knew this man didn't have a potato farm, because I knew every location of every one of his bases. So I pranked Ravi with 7,000 potatoes I managed to whip up offhand. And it wasn't as nearly as impactful as I hoped, but it was damage. Which I didn't even get that on video, because Steel cleaned that all up almost instantly. I didn't even record it in time. Then, almost the same episode, in order to replace all that potato loss, I did the bamboo prank. Which he's still recovering from to this day. He attempted to prank me back with bamboo that I pranked him with, but it was useless. It was futile. His base was much larger than mine, but produced a lot less. Mine was a lot smaller, but more compact, and there was barely any room for bamboo. And where he could place bamboo, he placed bamboo. This was also the start of where I started sabotaging his farms. And I don't think sabotaging his farms really did much in the end, because, well, yeah, sabotaging his gunpowder farm by lighting it up and blocking where creepers should have gone with only 2 dirt blocks, it did affect him in the long run, but mainly overall, it really didn't change much. It was also at this point I knew I would win the war unless Ravi changed his schedule, because the way Ravi was playing it, he rarely hopped on. When I was on daily, day in, day out, I was on. That means my gunpowder farm was constantly running, almost never going off, while Ravi only was getting the resources from 1 day every 2 weeks. It was at that moment I knew, unless Ravi got enough firepower to beat me in combat, then there was no hope for him. After that, in the same episode, Carbon also pranked me. He used a wheat farm prank and sweet berries, and then he also put water all over my base, which that actually did grief one of my farms. But because of what I did to Ravi, while I didn't break anything, I just sabotaged his farms. And plus, I was going to get rid of that farm anyway. I didn't really care much. I just notified Ravi saying, "Hey, you did that. But okay, I don't really care." It was also at this point I had 2 plans for victory. Plan A, Plan B. Plan A was just a military domination where I would get my team and my spies to absolutely crush Ravi. And it was also at this point I was aware almost that Carbon was a spy. And I didn't really act on it. Also at this point, I believe Torch joined his team. It was at that moment where Torch joined his team that Torch actually came to me and asked to be my spy. I didn't go to him. He came to me. He betrayed Ravi and came to me and asked to be my spy. And he has been my most active spy. He has leaked every DM. He has leaked every text message. And I'd say a lot of the information I got from that, I actually did use. And it was at this point, Ravi was struggling to catch up. He was far behind me. And it was nearly impossible for him to catch up. He would have to make a big power move that never came. That power move never ever came. And if he had made a power move then, made a move that actually would have changed the war, then he might have been able to win. Then comes the turning point in the war. You see, in the gaming calendar, there's a few seasons which players of young age have to be aware for. Exam season is what hit him. Well, there is that period called summer break, which you get spikes of massive amount of players since everyone's on the free time. Everyone could do whatever they want on summertime. During exam season, you have the opposite. There's less players online. And because like everyone is just preparing for exams, studying, cramming, getting as much information in their head as possible. But that's not with me. With me, I just wing it and I pass. I don't really try because I don't take hard classes. I don't want to try hard high school. That's just not my thing. But Ravi, he does try hard his exams. He worries about them and everything. Thus, he put in even less time. And after that point, I think Ravi logged in 3 times total until the end of the war. And it was not even a struggle. This was also when the first chicken prank happened. You see, the reason and how he did it and how I figured it all out is because Torch DM'd me saying, hey, he's trying to do a chicken prank on you. You might want to watch out. So I repurposed his egg farm into a literal weapon against himself. Twice. That was just the first time. At this point, I began swapping his hoppers. And it was clear to me that there was no way Ravi was going to catch up. I was worried he had something up his sleeve that would turn the tide of the war. But there was nothing. There was no comeback. Thus, Plan C was born. You see, while Ravi practically never logged in, there was some times where his team would log in and attempt, or like people would actually go to his base and load his creeper farm. I wasn't going to allow that. Because when Ravi did log in, he could make gunpowder. It was possible. And I didn't want that. So I absolutely devastated his creeper farm. And I didn't grief it, but every day I would log in and I'd make sure that's lit up. Sometimes even 3 times a day. Most of the time I only check it 2 times a day that it was lit up. And oftentimes I'd find it unlit. There was no torches there. Because people were actually removing them. I think Steel was the one to remove them. Try and keep up that act of being a spy. But it was working. I was crippling his gunpowder supply. This was also when I decided I was going to make a power move. In Minecraft, we only have a mob cap of 70 mobs. Once you hit that mob cap, no more mobs are going to spawn. So, Minecrafters in the past have made this thing called a mob switch. A mob switch basically is what it says. Well, not really what it says, but it turns on and off mob spawning, and that's all it does. If I could turn off mob spawning whenever Ravi's on, and then turn on back on when he leaves, then there'd be no chance for him to actually succeed. But that plan would fail. You see, with my design, I was going with zombies that were renamed. Once you rename a mob, it doesn't count towards a mob cap. And that's what hurt. Because I'd spent weeks on this. behind the shadows where no one could see me on this project, and it didn't work. But I learned a good lesson from there. I learned that zombies suck and that you have to work with shulkers instead, and shulkers suck even more. Well, I already understood that lesson. I already knew it. I don't really think I ever enforced it upon myself. But now that I know that, now that I know you can't use mobs like that, it opens up entire world of possibilities. Episode 8, that's pretty much where I started emptying the economy of diamonds. You see, the whole reason why I started putting people in the debt was to make sure they didn't pay Ravi. As long as Ravi didn't gain anything from this war, then my psychological warfare was going to kick in any time then. And along with exam season and him having to cram, it was almost a guaranteed victory in my eyes. Because as soon as that psychological warfare hit and he didn't like doing the war, it was victory for me. And that's exactly what happened. In which that was the birth of Plan D. Using psychological warfare and the lack of profit of this war against Ravi, I would use it all against him and just devastate him. And thus, he wouldn't want to fight me. And because he didn't want to fight me, that was guaranteed victory. It was at that point, well, Ravi still was cramming for finals and the war was still going on. That site beta had reached 90% of its should have been power. And while I did test its power, it did have an effect on the mob spawning, but it never turned it off. And I can only suspect why. At this point, a few players knew I could control the mob spawning, but they didn't know how. They didn't know why. They just knew I could. They knew I was working on something, but I never told them. Steel and Thunder had actually seen my notes for Site Beta in chat, and they asked me. They even came over to my base trying to investigate it, but I just outmaneuvered them. They never figured it out. Which Thunder and Steel, yeah, that's what was in chat when you were questioning me a couple weeks back. Yeah, that's what it was. Site Beta information. Which that information I leaked in chat. I leaked it because I was just lazy to write down in my notes. And I knew that technical player stuff would pass right over their heads. That's why I didn't worry. A lot of the stuff I put down in there, technical players would see it and be like, OMG, we need to stop this man. But players that don't do technical stuff, they just look at it and say, oh, what's that? And as long as you don't tell them, then they don't have a clue what's going on. Then, where episode 10 should have been, is where the war ended. You see, in the last hour of the war is when Ravi logged in for the last time before the war would end. And in that last login, that's when I pushed. I made my strike in chat. And I said, hey Ravi, what about the war? Is it on? Since at that point we were at a truce for exam season. And because of that truce, I didn't do anything to his farm, but it didn't matter. The psychological warfare was already in place. Everything was in place. I could go exam season. But it was, my psychological warfare was so strong enough, along with the pressure of school and stuff, that he just surrendered. Thus, I gained total control over the firework economy once and for all. Now, I made Ravi sign a contract, making sure he will never sell fireworks in this season again. And not only fireworks, but not even gunpowder can he sell. Not even into individuals, not even to the shops. No selling of gunpowder items. And that's exactly what I wanted. Because fireworks are hella valuable. Today alone, as I'm recording this, I got 18 diamonds off of the firework economy alone. That's why. It's literally like gold in real life, but more valuable. Because it's renewable. And people want fireworks. That's why I was willing to go to war for it. Fireworks are hella valuable. And if you know how to strike a good bargain, then you're down to make tons of money. And that's the war. In the last hour after I made him sign it, it was like a solemn peace. I knew I would have won the war, but I never expected it to come so early. All it took was 10 episodes. I have emptied the economy. I have made a player submit to me with contracts. I have now gained the most powerful shop on the server. I have the most farms, all within 10 episodes. And I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. Because I know this isn't going to be the first server. I know this is the first server I've joined. But this isn't going to be the last. There's going to be tons of servers I'm going to join. And right now, as a small league Minecraft YouTuber, this is where I am. So thank you all for joining me and listening to my tale. But that is old news. Now, on the horizon, I've heard rumors that a man named Thunder, my once ally, is starting to gather people under a banner in order to bring me down because I put too many people in debt. But if he thinks he can stop me, then he needs to think 100 steps ahead, because I already know how I'll win the war. And it'll just be another victory. This will just be another server I conquered. Another world. Which is boring. There's so many worlds that are easily conquered. I want to get to the big leagues, and I want to conquer one of those worlds. Like Dream SMP or Hermitcraft. I want to make my name known. But this is where I'm at. Sorry for my little ramble. But yeah. Now, it's on to a new day, a new tale, a new story of TubeCraft.